Please become a Patreon and support the show. Merci.
And now our host, Stephen Lee Morris.
She grew up outside of Boston, studied in Boston with Improv Asylum, and where she also worked. She worked at several venues in Boston before traveling to Los Angeles to study with the Groundlings, eventually to join the company of the Groundlings. She is now a Groundlings alumni and is a teacher there. She is directing the Groundlings' latest show, Groundling on Elm Street, which performs at the Groundlings Theatre on Melrose Avenue through Thanksgiving. Lisa Schurga, welcome to Animal Farm.
Thank you so much for having me.
We have not had a sketch comedy expert on this show. We tend to be much, much more serious, and I thought we've really got to lighten up. So we're turning to you for lightness, but as we were talking before this recording, and there's actually some stuff that is not only very funny, but is also quite connected and tethered to the more stodgy kinds of theater that I, in particular, tend to support. So let's tell us about, you grew up in Rockland, Massachusetts, which is about 20 minutes south of Boston, and you started your own acting career through your own propulsion. How did that work?
Well, I started by doing performances in my driveway.
There we go.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, anyone would let me sing for them or what, like I was down. My family, I was just constantly trying to do stuff around the house, but my shows, you were
not 30 years old at this time.
No,
you
this
were
is like 8, 9, 10.
Very good.
I mean, even younger probably, but I really remember that age as being a time when I would set up shows. So I would set up these shows in my driveway, and I'd set up like every chair we owned, every outdoor chair we owned. And then the only person that would come would be my neighbor, Larry, who would read the paper while I roller skated and danced and sang and just put on a show. And
irrepressible.
Yes. And my mother was always like, God love Larry. Like, because my mother was like, I can't watch anymore. I have laundry to do. I got stuff to do in here. I can't watch you roller skate all day. So
this was a performance on roller skates.
Yes, performances on roller skates.
And what would you sing?
Well, I would, the singing could be anything, but really what I remember is that I would work out acts to, at the time I had the Lionel Richie cassette. I forget which album it was, but it had the song Hello on it. And I would act out that video where the blind woman she's molding clay, and then she feels Lionel Richie's face. And so I would act that out on roller skates.
And for an audience of one, did you ever get more than Larry show up?
Yes, I have great family. So sometimes my grandparents could drive. So they were like 20 minutes away. But occasionally my mother would like, she's got a show today. She's really making a thing out of it. My grandparents would show up, or my aunt and uncle would show up. So yeah, sometimes I would get other people.
Did you market your own show to the neighbors, or was that?
Sometimes I would make little invites and I would deliver them, hand deliver them.
Okay.
Yeah, but nobody ever came no neighbors showed up ever besides Larry. They'd be like,
No.
Thank you.
Yes.
No. Yeah.
It's sort of like starting a theater in Los Angeles. I don't think it's any different.
That's right. It's really slow going in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you did theater in high school. Let's just tell us a little bit about that.
I did I did the musicals in high school. It's funny, I didn't do the musical. I forget what it was my freshman year. I was kind of scared actually of doing it. I think I had this feeling in my guts, like, I think I wanted to do it so badly. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like I wanted to be on stage and perform so badly that it was really a scary kind of feeling. Like, I just remember the nerves of it, like,
Yeah.
and so the first one I did, I kind of built up the courage. It was Annie, and I just loved that musical as a kid, and so I was like, I have to go out for Annie. So I played one of the orphans. I played Pepper. And to this day, I remember the show opens, I think it opens with Hard Knock Life. And I remember we had these beds lined up and the curtain was closed. And I just remember laying in that bed, waiting for the curtain to open and going like, can I run? Can I get the heck out of here? Like, this is terrifying. I hated it. And then it was like, lights up, we're going. And I was like, oh my God, I love this, but I've never, ever felt so much fear.
Yeah, interesting.
So I always remember that. Yeah. And then we did Bye Bye Birdie, and I got to play Kim McAfee. And then we did Once Upon a Mattress, and I did not get the lead in that. And
did they ever do like Death of a Salesman or something without songs?
Yes, they did. And I had nothing to do with it. I was like, no, thanks. If I'm not singing, I'm out. Yeah, I didn't understand what would be enjoyable about acting without music.
Interesting.
I just didn't understand it. I was like, I don't know why anybody would want to do that. So yeah, so I'm sure I know they did a play and a musical every year.
Yeah.
And I just don't even know what those plays were. I should look back and try to find out what I missed out on.
And then you went to college and established, kind of a career in Boston.
Yeah, a little bit. I did theater in college. I did musicals in college, and then I finally broke out and did a actual play and realized, oh, I like this no matter what. I like it whether I'm singing and dancing or not. Like it's fun either way. And
your feet finally touched the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I really felt like.
Well, you mentioned what the play was. Do you remember?
Barefoot in the Park.
Barefoot. Okay.
That's my first play without music was Barefoot in the Park, and the guy who cast me is a dear friend, Bob Vernon, and he was my director through college. And I mean, I'm a little bit of a I can be uptight and like high energy. And he typecast me, and it was great. I was like, oh, I want to play these types of characters forever. It was really fun.
And you had mentioned a kind of a big audition in Boston that put you sort of in the circle of at least some of the local and regional theaters in the Massachusetts area.
That's right. The Stage Source auditions. So there are these big auditions that happen in Boston every year. And you audition in this, I forget where it was, but it was huge, in a big theater and all the theaters come and watch you. So you get to kind of do one audition, and then different theaters can call you back for, a second audition. So I prepared a dramatic piece, a comedy piece, and I sang a little bit, and I did that audition. And I got some good calls, and one of them was from the Improv Asylum in Boston.
There we go.
And I was like, what? These people are crazy. They don't know what they're doing, because I've never done improv. Sure, I did a little bit of a comedy piece, but I just didn't get it. And so I wasn't going to go to the audition. And my boyfriend at the time reminded me what I had said, which is that all auditions are important because you learn at them, and you should go to every single one, even if you don't want to do it. And I was like, I did say that, I'll go. And so I went, and the audition was so much fun. It was scary, but really fun. And they hired me. And I was like, wait, what? And it was a paid gig. And I was like, it was my first, paid acting gig. And I was learning on the fly. I wasn't great at it. I'll be honest. Like, I wasn't great, but they just saw potential. So while I was performing on their main stage, they also had me signed up in the classes.
This is so smart of them.
Yeah. So I was learning as I was doing. And it was so immersive that I felt like it was just a few months or so. And I was like, oh, I think I get this. And I really like it. And I think I'm pretty decent at it. And from then it was just, I think I was there for a few years, and it was just nonstop fun and really feeling like I had found my thing.
then you came to LA because, as you described it, you know, opportunities in Boston exist, but they're at a point they kind of not run out, but they're constricted.
Yeah, they're far and few between.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I got my SAG card doing background work and stuff like that. But that was kind of the most kind of work there was, you know.
So you came to LA and you have built yourself up quite an extensive repertoire of television credits, but that's not how it started.
No, it started. I mean, it was great moving out here, but man, it feels like it took me a while to
if
get.
I can frame this is about 2003 when you showed up around there.
Yeah, that's right. I came in 2002. I started taking classes at the Groundlings in 2003. And actually, part of what pushed me to come was, you know, 9/11 had happened in 2001. And I had been thinking about moving and what am I going to do next? And I do remember having this thought, like, what am I waiting for here? Like, life felt like you should just go do it, you know, go do the thing you want to do. Like, it's precious. And so it really pushed me. So basically the end of 2001, I started kind of thinking of it. And then just suddenly, I think it was like in October or November, I'm going to LA, and I just got ready and I packed and moved, I think, it was January or February of 2002. So yeah, and then just came out and started taking classes at the Groundlings. I took my time. About a year later, I was trying to like get my feet under me, and yeah, and went up through the ranks. And really, though, didn't start working, and you know, I didn't have good representation or anything until I made it to the Sunday company of the Groundlings, when, you know, people come and see you. So casting directors come and see you, and agents and managers. And I finally got like a great commercial agent, and I got a theatrical agent, and, you know, started to really audition. And then it felt like the momentum started, and I started.
So the agents actually do show up.
They
or
do,
did,
yeah.
or did, or do.
They did. I mean, I don't know, since COVID, who knows? I think
right.
they, yeah. Yeah, they would do, matter of fact, Sunday Company every year has an industry night. It's really, I think it's actually fun for industry. They all get to see each other. We serve them wine and cheese, and, you know, and yeah, they're usually pretty packed. I mean, the people in Sunday Company are really like the up and coming comedians in LA. So it's smart for them to come and check them out and see, you know, who's in the pipeline at the Ground.
And it is a pipeline, because you said the next week you see a whole bunch of them on TV shows or in pilots or whatever. I mean,
it's really, I always say, like, we have some managers who are and agents who are regulars at these shows, and they'll even see earlier shows. Like we have it's kind of our third or fourth level is like a writing level. And sometimes they'll want to come and even see that. I mean, these are people really kind of early in their Groundlings career. But I'm always like, these people are so smart, because they'll grab somebody up, you know, as they're coming up the ranks. And then I'll see those people, you know, the next year, and they're in a pilot or something. And it's very talented people come up through the Groundlings.
So in 2007, you are in the company. You are working and established, and now you're a teacher and an alum. So. Yeah,
I became an alum just months ago. So basically, I was thinking about becoming an alum right before the pandemic hit. I was just about to do it, and then it felt really weird to do it during the pandemic, because it was like, well, we're not there I just felt like we were in a bubble. And we were trying to save the theater, really. I mean, we were figuring out Zoom shows, and we were we were just trying to find all of these things to engage people online and teach online and work all that out, that it just felt like, well, this feels like a crappy time to leave my company. So I hung in there, and as soon as we were back up and running, I actually did our first show back, which was amazing and joyous, and it was great. Lots of tears and joy. And then the next day I resigned. I was like, I'm out. So the nice thing about the alumni is they're still family, and they're still considered Groundlings, you know, the Groundlings for life. It's kind of like if you're the president, you're always called president. And so, you know, I get to be really involved in the community. I still perform a little bit, and now I get to direct, which is fun.
Right. Now, I've seen quite a few Groundling shows, and what occurs to me, first, the styles can vary a lot. There's almost a kind of macabre, grotesque humor in the characters in some of them. I still remember one guy, I remember he was playing a serial killer, and he had I think he smeared his entire face, not just his hair, but his entire face with Vaseline.
Oh,
It was, and that's exactly what the audience, the minute the lights came up, and that was the collective groan from the audience.
I don't know that one. Now I'm dying, and I gotta look that one up.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was so gross. And yet others are singularly lighthearted. But it does seem like the shows themselves follow a fairly pat formula. And the trick, I guess, is to see what can break through the seams of that. There's a kind of tape that holds it all together. And can these actors push through the tape and stretch it a little bit so you get a different kind of show? And I'm just wondering if that observation is valid, or if it's just my predisposition.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that, I've said this to students before, because sometimes a student will say, like, are you familiar? I don't know if you're familiar with Steve Little. So he was somebody who could play really weird characters. He could have been the Vaseline guy for all I know. And students would say, well, they, might put up a sketch and show me a sketch, and it's really out there, and I can't connect to anything that's happening. I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on. They're like, we're trying to do something like Steve Little does. And I was like, but he's Steve Little. And what I mean by that is that he's been doing this a long time. And I think you get to break rules when you have the rules so down, like the rules and how to stretch them because you've been doing it for so long, and so I do think that comes when you've done sketch comedy a really long time. I think you can start to, and some people are innately great at it. They don't need a long time. They're like, I have an idea, and it's like, whoa, it's so good and it's so weird, but some people, it takes a minute to figure out, wait, what are my boundaries? How do I push them and still keep the audience on my side and stick with me through this? But yeah, I do think it's a little bit of a balancing act for sure.
Now you have, when they do a Groundling sketches, they're scripted, but not really. It's kind of somewhere between a play and improv. It's neither play nor pure improv, because there are guideposts. That's really clear. How does this work? What's the guiding principle when you teach this kind of comedy?
So it is when we start with the sketch, it's fully written. It is, every beat is written. Mm-hmm. As the sketch runs in a show, it gets looser and looser, because what happens is you may exchange a line for another line, change it up a little bit here and there, and then you go, oh, that worked better, now I'm keeping that line. Mm-hmm. Or, oh, I missed this whole section and it worked better, I'm losing that section. So that's where I think the improv comes into play within a sketch, is that you do the sketch as written, but you keep it loose. And the more you know the sketch, the looser you can be with it. Mm-hmm. And continue, because I think that's the great thing about our sketch shows. If you see a show first weekend out and you see it the last weekend out, the changes there'll be so many differences, because the actors will have continued to make the material better just by playing in the moment, so that's kind of, so you start with a really, scripted, and we still think of, I would say, like, when you're writing a sketch, you're still thinking of any other format, pilot, movie, you still want a beginning, middle, and end. You still want your character to go through an emotional shift of some kind, have them go through something or care about something, or, and then if you have all that structure there, you can, it makes it easier to do really bizarre, weird characters, because the more of an anchor you have to, like, to real emotions, to actual feelings that's going on, then you can kind of push the boundaries more. So the anchor is a source of liberation in a way. I think so. Yeah, I think so. If you can tune into, like, my favorite thing to do has always been to kind of play characters that are very close to me, as far as, let's say if I'm a person who's, I'm nervous about, like, what people think of me, right? So then I might pick a character that feels that way. But the difference between me and that character is the character will say it out loud. Like, what are you thinking of me? I feel like you don't like me. What's going on? It's like the stuff we're saying in our heads, but we don't want to say out loud.
Yeah.
You get to say it as a character. And I think when people do that as their character, it works a lot of the time because the audience can really relate to those kinds of feelings, whatever they might be. They're just human feelings.
I'm wondering if it's just a theory that the reason the Groundlings are success, and I don't mean success in terms of launching the careers of their actors, but success in terms of you get droves of audience who come up from Orange County and from all other surrounding counties just to see this kind of comedy in the flesh.
Yeah.
If that isn't a reason, has it to do with it's a specific kind of comedy that is absolutely character based, and I was wondering if you could expand on that.
Well, I think it's the character-based comedy, but I think it's also you're getting from a lot of the sketches, and not all of them, because you love a good Vaseline face-covered sketch like you're mentioning. It's fun to have those mixed in. But in a lot of these sketches, you're getting kind of a full release in 5 minutes, like a full story.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch a great movie and you get to go like, oh, that was great. Like I got to go on this 1.5-hour journey, but you're getting it in a 5-minute. If it's done really well, and I think that it is something the Groundlings is good at, then you get that journey within a 5-minute sketch or a 4-minute sketch, and you get it multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You get these multiple moments, and then in between those, you get something very weird that you didn't expect, that maybe doesn't have as much of a journey, but is just like, what's happening? I think that's what does it. I know for me, that's what I like when I go, even just see a play or a musical or whatever it is. Like I'm interested in the journey it takes me on.
Mm-hmm.
And ours is like hopefully a mix. Each one is a mix of a lot of laughter, and then also maybe that feeling of kind of rooting for somebody, rooting for the character or for whatever the situation is, or just feeling like, oh God, I've been through that,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why. It works.
I have 2 final questions.
Okay.
In sequence. One is, what is the worst or most embarrassing moment you have seen on a Groundling stage, followed up by what is the funniest and most memorable or important moment you've ever seen on a Groundling stage?
Oh, wow. Okay. The most embarrassing is my moment. And although I know it happened to one other person, but I won't say who they are. I've told this story before. You're going to be like, can we cut and have you tell a different story? I was doing a sketch with Jill Satchoff, who's brilliant. And she was one of my, she's an alumni now, but during her time in the company, she was just one of my favorite writing partners. You just end up finding people who you just get each other in a way. And she was also kind of a muse for me because I found her so funny that I liked writing her material more than my own. I'm like, and then I want you to say this, and then I want you to say that. So we wrote this thing, and she was a Broadway actor, Jill was, so she can dance and sing. So we wrote this sing and dance and sketch that was so dumb. And she looked crazy. And I think what had happened was lights came up, and what I didn't know she had done was create a real monobrow going like straight across. And so that was the first thing. And then the second thing is that sometimes in these sketches, you have this moment of like, what are we doing? Like, what is this? And it just makes you kind of laugh. Well, I wet my pants. I wet my pants laughing so hard on stage, and I had on these dance pants, I guess you'd call them, and they were sequins, wide-legged pants. So a drip went right down the side of my leg, hit the stage, and I made contact with an audience member who looked down and then looked up at me, and I looked down. I looked at them, and not everybody knew it happened, but there was a few audience members who absolutely were like, I think that girl just wet her pants on the stage. So that was super embarrassing.
I think you've just redefined living hell. Yeah.
I was like, oh God, I'm so embarrassed. And then I had to come off and tell the stage managers, you might need to do just a quick little mop before the next scene goes out. And they were like, okay. So super embarrassing. So what was the second? Funniest, most important?
Yeah.
That kind of the...
Yeah. You either participated in or saw.
Yeah, or saw. I would, what's hard for me is just, it feels like that for me almost every weekend. Or, truthfully, I'm so blown away by who I get to perform with. Most recently I was kind of blown away by, I got to direct one of the shows we did a small celebration for our 45th. And my cast was, I think it was like people from the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, like a mix of all of these alumni came in to do a show. And Will Forte was one of them. And he has a really funny sketch he used to do where he's just a kid and a spelling bee. And he's trying to spell a really easy word. I forget what it is, but he's panicking and he's just saying letters. So many letters: P, C, F, 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 R, on and on and on. And so, I'm the director of this thing. And I think it struck me, like, in rehearsal, I'm such a Will Forte fan. I think he's brilliant and so funny. And he comes out and I'm just like checking the lights and making sure, I do nothing to direct him. PS. He's great. But, just making sure the lights are right, making sure that the mic sounds right. And then just sitting during the rehearsal, and it's just me, him in the booth, getting to watch him do this sketch. And I was like, this is my life. Like, what a cool life this is. Like, I'm like the only audience to watch this amazing scene, and I think those moments, they just stick with me. Just so great.
Lisa Schurga, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was so nice.
Groundling on Elm Street, directed by Lisa Schurga, performs at the Groundlings Theatre on Melrose Avenue through Thanksgiving.